Hi there. We are so excited for this next guest that you're going to listen to. We just got done filming with Abby Buchmiller, and Abby's a serial entrepreneur, CEO, powerhouse behind RDCL Services, a disruptive force in the home services and solar industry. She's got over 20 years in the trades, scaled her second business to over $200 million in revenue, and now really teaches entrepreneurs how to build, scale, and dominate their industries. She's also the host of Blind Ambitions, a business strategist and straight shooting advocate for fearless entrepreneurship. So if you're ready for some unfiltered conversation, stick around, and we've got Abby here for you today. Welcome everyone to the Power Up Your Life podcast. I'm Kelly Resendez.
And I'm Mandy McAllister.
And we are so excited to have Abby here on our show today. Just super excited to just have you share a little bit about your background. We've known each other through the solar industry for a little while, and you are just such a trailblazer. So let us know what you've been up to. And
thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Good morning, Mandy and Kelly. Thank you for having me. I'll give just a really short bio. Those can be somewhat boring, I know, but let's see. I am in my 20-something, maybe 21st year in electrical contracting. So I come from a long line of coal miners, of tradesmen, and I got an early start in trying my hand at being an entrepreneur, working for my dad's business around the time I had my first baby in my lap. So I was really lucky after I got kicked out of high school and had kind of a rough start in early years and wondered if there was something wrong with me or if I'd make something of myself. I got really lucky and had some great people in my life who gave me some awesome opportunities to take on a lot of responsibility and earn some hard-earned confidence throughout the process there. And I, after helping my dad sort of start a family-run business, get off the ground, we were in oil and gas primarily. We ran that business through some boom and bust times in oil and gas for about 14 years or so. And in one of our bottom out times, I decided to make a little bit of a lateral move into solar and started a residential solar energy company. And that was my first stint as CEO, grew the company very large, right place, right time kind of situation in the home services space over the over 4 years time that the company was in operation. We grew to over 200 million in annual revenue, which is quite an amazing feat, and was also all sorts of chaos, as you can imagine. But yes, I have some hard lessons learned from that experience, which I am very excited to share with your audience, or really anyone that asks, because I think there's so much good that can come from some really hard times. And here I am, eager to share my story, eager to help anybody else going through a tough time right now. And after this business that I'm referring to, unfortunately, sort of went up in flames and failed in a pretty large way. I licked my wounds and tried to figure out how I could give back to others and stay really focused on what it is that I'm here for and what I can give to others and how I can show up in the world. And I ended up launching another business. Right now, this business is called RDCL Services, and we are in the labor sourcing tech-enabled space. So you can think of us like an Uber for labor. We're focusing in the solar industry because we love the solar industry and we feel like there's a really great benefit there. But we essentially offer a plug-and-play labor platform for anybody in the national space trying to build at scale.
That's amazing, Abby. And I think what I've always admired about you, even before you went through the company failure, was just that you have always shared. You've shared with other people your success. You were the largest female executive in your industry and whatnot, which is inspiring. But walk us through going through that moment where you were stuck. Right? Your business, your lifestyle, everything had to change. Like, what got you through it?
This is my moment where I can't not pause and say, Mrs. Kelly Resendez reached out to me in such a dark moment for me. And as somebody that did not did not get to a place that I was by ever asking for help or even really reaching out or allowing myself to receive. Receiving has been very difficult for me through my journey. I very much feel more comfortable in a giving space. And I was connected, and this is going to sound like a purposeful plug, and I'm sorry, but I can't, because if you were swap anybody else on this podcast, I'd say I have to tell you the story about this person that just reached out to me, had no reason to, and helped me start to open myself up and find kind of a path forward. So yes, very few people who didn't know me very well, they weren't the people that I expected to be a pillar for me, reached out, and said encouraging words that can mean a lot to somebody that are going through something like that. It can range from, you have worth, it's going to be okay, to, try to look inward and focus on healing yourself. And also, get out of your own head in certain ways. And all those influences really started to help me get my feet underneath me. I mean, truthfully, it's a very long, messy story of how everything sort of came about. And it wasn't just like a month and it was done. It was a lot of painful months of fighting and, trying really hard to keep everything together and processing lots of letdown and lots of hurt from other people, that were involved, unfortunately. And then it sparked an ongoing legal challenge and challenges that I honestly am still not through in my life. And so what happened in the darkest moments was, now that I'm looking back on it, the foundation of me starting to just look at the process differently and looking at it as a process. I was able to start to dissect me from the person who had this success. And this journey from, I've now had this failure, what am I, who am I, and how can I move forward, to this is a journey, this is a process. We all have the highs, we all have the lows, and you have to be able to stay brave through the lows and try to figure out what life is telling you, what the journey is trying to show you, trying to teach you, and take everything that you can, because sometimes it's all you have. I mean, we lost everything. It was a total net loss, even for the time spent in the business. And I don't say that with pride. I only say it to say that I had to take something from that experience. And now I'm 4 to going on 5 years out from that process. And I just have nothing but an insane amount of gratitude that I got to experience that I got to see things that most people won't, I got to learn such great lessons, and I have great people in my life. And I just hope to be a Kelly Resendez to someone else in my life. That's my personal goal.
Oh, that's beautiful. I feel the same way about our girl, Kel. I feel like the shift in identity, like I ventured big and it didn't work out, like that shift of identity to realize what actually matters. And, if you're in darkness, maybe it's because you've been planted and you're going to grow into something much bigger. So thank you for diving into that so vulnerably, because I know that some women and men listening are going to learn from it. I think that, I came from a house that had entrepreneurs as well. And I think, it ends up in your blood. And I think that you end up being very a non-conventional thinker. You might end up to be drawn to entrepreneurship. You're going to be against the grain in some way.
Yes.
I'm curious, what are 1 or 2 unconventional strategies or things that you believe that someone else might not agree with?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. This might get into the female approach or, masculine approach in business. I think that a lot of people can look at vulnerability and see weakness. And I have very much been proven to myself multiple times over how much vulnerability can and is a strength, especially when it's used in a way to show people a path, to be a beacon for someone else. When it comes to business, growing a business, creating a product or service out of nothing and then getting it out into the world, it requires this vulnerability through the process. And you have to create relationships with people that are authentic. And people know whether your message is fake, whether it's, sitting across the table, or whether you're telling the world, this is what we're doing. Here's a culture that I'm building. Here's a company I'm creating. Come join us, whether it's recruiting, sales, whatever it is. There has to be authenticity. People can feel it if it's there, and if it's not there, it's worth nothing. And so how do you create authenticity? You do so by being able to be comfortable in a vulnerable space. And that's not meaning, hey, guess what? I'm a piece of garbage. It is, I have failed. I have made multiple mistakes. I am far from perfect. And it's okay that you are too. And let's focus on being better together. And that's just such a compelling message in business.
Oh my gosh, so important too. And yet something that a lot of women especially believe that we have to always be put together or we need to show up differently. And I think it's our superpower. I think our authenticity is our superpower. And one of the things that you have done with your career in this pivot, right, is you looked at an industry and you saw a problem.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about how that helped you build this next business. Because a lot of times people don't build businesses from problems, which the biggest businesses succeed because they focus on problems, right?
Yes.
And bring a solution. So tell me a little bit about what that looked like, because you had a lot of options, right?
Yeah. I think a lot of people were surprised to see, I come from contracting, not to jump back in and build another contracting company. And, that maybe that's part of my path and journey at some point in time. But what I love so much about this problem solution that we've, identified and created is that Radical really is the company that I wish existed when we were trying to build and scale a quality national contracting organization. And, a lot of businesses across a lot of industries are having challenges right now. This isn't just a solar related issue. I'm going to speak to solar because it's my everyday, but in the solar space in particular, we've seen so many companies that have gone out, have had similar fates to mine, one after another. There's just been a lot of turmoil and tumultuousness and a lot of confusion. Why is this happening, right? And so when I take a step back and look at what should we have done differently, what could we have done differently, there's been so many move forwards in the industry that have improved. But what it comes down to at its core, we have companies that can run a really quality, profitable business in their own backyard. They know their clientele really well. They see them at the grocery store, right? And there's this profitable platform, call it, for solar numbers, between 5 and 10 crews. You're working within a metro area. You've got steady, consistent clientele coming in. Pipelines are healthy, and you've got faster turn times. And then you've got these companies that go, okay, this is great. This is a phenomenal business model. I'm now going to branch out into multiple different areas. Well, guess what? These areas have long, drawn out turn times. Cash management becomes nearly impossible. You've got business owners trying to level up faster than many humans are just simply able to, and lessons learned there. So what our company provides essentially is the right person with the right training at the right place at a fixed cost. Whereas companies typically nationally would plug some people in, pay W-2 labor, manage overhead costs, buy some vehicles, they'd invest in an area. Maybe sales aren't consistent. Maybe they have, somebody that steals from them and takes off. Whatever it is, it's a risk that a company is taking within an area. And this is very typical for solar. And those costs oftentimes, unfortunately, end up being a loss that we see at the end of the day, which is leading to so many of these companies struggling. They have some projects that they're performing at decent profit margins. And by and large, as they're trying to expand and operate nationally and at scale, they're failing and they're losing more on many other projects. So we're really trying to bridge that gap. And I feel so great about how we're going about it. We're saying, here's the markets. You can, again, do not expand your overhead more than you need to. Lean on our team to get things done within these areas and stay focused on your profitable core.
Oh, I think so many great businesses began with the I wish I had this when,
Right.
So kudos to you for recognizing the problem and building the solution to it. I want to talk a little bit about clarity and finding clarity. So when you are in a circumstance, especially in the darker times, and you don't know what to do next, what is something kind of actionable that you do to help yourself find clarity when you need it?
Oh gosh, this was one thing that just stands out so strongly to me that was advice that was given to me is try to focus on the things that you don't want. When you're in a really rough time, you just that feeling of being lost is so miserable. And it sounds like a voice in your head that says, I shouldn't have ever done this. This is not for me. I can't do this. I'm not capable of doing these things. What do I even want? Do I even want this? And you have a really difficult time seeing the hurt through the intuitive guidance forward and how to move forward in the right way, right? And I love that piece of advice, to start listing out the things that you do not want in your life when you're at rock bottom. I know that I don't want a tumultuous business partnership, for example. I know that I don't want to feel like X or Y or Z ever again. And in having that clarity of the things that you don't want to call into your life anymore, or the things that you don't want to recreate in your next phase, I think it provides so much clarity to, okay, I know who I am, and I do know what it is that I want. I love that piece of advice. I just feel like it's very actionable when you can feel really stuck.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's a great exercise. And in order to create the future that you want, now you've got to take those don'ts and reframe them into, I want powerful partnerships that are
Yes.
mutually supportive, or I want, whatever those things are, because unfortunately our brain ends up, it doesn't differentiate between don't and do, so
I
it's
love that.
definitely there. What would you say, like taking care of yourself, being a female entrepreneur, being somebody that's gone through these things, like what disciplines do you have about making sure that you're taken care of so that you have the energy to be able to, support this business? I just came from an event where, one of the things was like, what most people don't realize, when you put yourself and your relationships first, your business flourishes. A lot of people think, but when my business flourishes, then I'll be able to spend more time with my family or on my health.
I love that question. And you probably hear hesitance in my voice, because it's something that I feel like I have not yet figured out. But what I do know is that as women, especially as women who are also moms and trying to work and run a business, I watched my incredible mom with 7 kids who also worked, and there was no such thing as her ever putting herself first. And she is the most selfless human being. And it's such a great quality that she's just amazing. But it can also be such a negative trait, right, that I don't want to pass on to my daughters in its fullness, in its full form, right? And so I'm cognizant of it. To answer your question, I think that for me, as somebody who resonates with an ADD type personality, I just can't ever stop. For me, it's action, action, action. That's where I feel good. It's where I feel strong. It's been hard to force myself to slow down and go, wait, I don't feel like me. I don't feel strength. I need to tap into that energy and to find, okay, where that is, that balance. And so I think the biggest step forward for me has been being able to tap into breath work and meditation, and having that moment where I can find stillness, purposeful stillness, that makes me feel connected to myself in new ways that I just didn't realize were possible. And those purposeful small breaks, I think, give me the fuel to just be able to continue to go at the pace that I go. And I do feel good in that pace in a lot of ways,
Amazing.
Purposeful stillness. I love that phrase. I'm going to totally borrow that. You've said so many things that have been so impactful to me today. I loved the idea of heal yourself first, and that vulnerability is a strength that helps you get to full authenticity. That resonates with me so much. Kelly, what were some things for you?
Yeah, I think when you're building a business, really looking at what problems are out there that you have to solve. And then the other thing is knowing that, let's be honest, a lot of us aren't really good, or it's not natural for us to start with self-care. And so just knowing, like, we all struggle with it. It might look like Abby's like completely whatever, but it's something she still struggles with. Start with something, meditation, breath work, something that's going to get you more connected to your body so that you can show up energetically. So such an important part of what we need to do. So thank you. Abby, one of the things that we really love on the Power Up Your Life podcast is we want to help you power up your life too. So what, whether it's a life-changing introduction, resource, or something that we can do to support you in your career and what you've got going on. So this is your opportunity to ask for help, which I know you, like you said, is a little challenging, but we got to get really good at it. This is a part of abundance that we got to get really good at. How can we support you?
Oh gosh. Well, that is sweet. And I have to laugh at how uncomfortable that makes me feel still. Let's see. Yes, any national scale organizations that are forward thinking, that are looking for partnerships with introductions to young, scrappy, very caring people who are very eager to transform the home and services landscape, introductions to help our dream that we just love and are funding with our blood, sweat, and tears and get that moving forward. That would be wonderful.
That's awesome.
And then what is the best way for listeners to get a hold of you?
I am very active on both LinkedIn and Instagram. Abby Buchmiller is the name on both platforms. And yeah, I'd love to connect on those two platforms primarily.
Beautiful. We will make sure to put that in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining us on the Power Up Your Life podcast, Abby. And for all of our listeners out there, if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure that you do. Make sure you are sharing this with a friend who needs to power up your life. We will talk to you again next time.
Yeah, and I would just say, Abby, just for anyone listening, don't be afraid to fail. Do not be afraid to fail. Abby is living proof that you can have a business that goes sideways and come back even stronger and more radiant. I mean, holy moly, lady, you always just fire me up about that. But just don't ever be afraid to take those risks on yourself and trust that everything's going to always work out okay for you. So thank you again for joining us, Abby.
Thank you both.
Bye, everyone.